Welcome to Not a Real Artist, a podcast by me, Tamara Sagathevan.
And me, Iris Fritschi-Cussens, discussing relatable creative topics with honesty and humour.
Settle in for today's episode, if you please, while we talk about people-pleasing.
Tamara.
I'm a people pleaser. Hello, nice to meet you.
Oh, I'm a people pleaser too, I think. But do I please people? I don't know.
Yeah, being one and actually being successful in the action, it's two different things.
So what do you think a people pleaser is?
Here's the thing, I have to start off with telling you why I didn't believe I was a people pleaser. Because I want to say ADHD, but you can say it's my English, whatever. People pleasing did not mean people pleasing. It meant people like some rando that you meet in the street or the people at your workplace. People for me did not include family or close friends. And I think those are the people I tend to please. Whereas if I meet some rando in the street and you say, hey, can I have the coats off your back? I'd be like, get fucked. That sounds really silly, but redefining the word recently for me made me realize that people includes family, and pleasing people, to answer your question, means doing whatever it is you need to do at the expense of yourself, whether that means your family, your finances, your energy, your mental health, just to make sure that they are okay or that their needs are met. It is a denouncement or a reduction. It is a reduction of your needs. What do you think people pleasing is?
I have a take on this, which I think is slightly different from yours, in that I think that you're talking about something that has to do with meeting other people's needs, maybe at the expense of yourself. But personally, I don't think that for me, that is the definition of people pleasing. Because I think that when we talk about people pleasing and oh, I'm such a people pleaser, we're talking about something slightly negative about ourselves. I don't feel like that often when we talk about people pleasing, we're talking about a noble thing. To me, there is definitely a concept of where you do something for other people and it's willingly given, even if it's at your own expense or own inconvenience, it's willingly done. Like, for example, lots of things that I do for my kids, I don't do resentfully. I do them willingly, even if they are not, the thing I would love to be doing in that moment in time. But I don't class that as people-pleasing behavior. I class that as something else, which is kind of nobly and willingly given. Kind of the way that we could be attentive lovers. Not you and me. I mean, pleasing people in that way, in a selfless way, in a way that you are doing something for someone just because you want them to have pleasure and it's willingly given. I think that's just that's the crux of what I'm saying, that the thing that I'm talking about is it's willingly given. And whenever we're talking about people pleasing, I actually think that it is something that we do that isn't necessarily willingly given. There is some form or some inkling of resentment there. There is something there that is to do with control, and there's something to do, it's with a feeling of persecution, and we're wanting to modify our behavior in order to avoid certain things, rather than we are engaging in certain behavior simply in order to please or give pleasure to someone else, and it's willingly given. Boom, mic drop.
I hear you and I agree with you. Maybe my definition is too simplistic, but for me, it's not noble giving. It is, first of all, not understanding the difference between need and want, and not understanding that I personally cannot fulfill every need. I cannot fulfill a need for love, a need to not be rejected. So that would be a need to be accepted. And for me, the whole thing about control, which I think we've spoken about a few times, I don't want to control what others think of me, but I do want to control the reaction. So there is a sense of control, and resentment is always there when you view someone needing something and you have to give it. And I think for me, in a family sense, I cannot I can't split the two. If someone needs something, I have to give it.
Then people pleasing becomes about, I don't know, fear of repercussion, really, and not really about pleasing.
Well, you're pleasing so that somebody isn't going to react negatively.
But that is about control then.
Yeah, it is about control, but it's still people pleasing.
But
So,
see, I think that because that is your definition, so I think we're actually agreeing. Because when I first asked you what is people pleasing to you, you said it's about doing things for other people. And yes, sure, the essence of it is that. But I think what we do agree on is actually that it is a kind of a negative way of doing things for other people that isn't super like noble
no.
and willingly given. It's about a feeling of persecution and control.
Yeah, I don't think it's a positive thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Um if that wasn't clear, that's why I'm disturbed that I'm a people pleaser.
So I think it's a misnomer because it isn't really about pleasing at all.
Hmm. I'm thinking about, and I want to agree, but my immediate thought is, what would be better? Would it be people manipulator, people controller,
People pandering.
people pandering,
Yeah, people pandering because that's a nice alliteration as well.
pee?
We should talk about art in a second. But I think what's
What?
really what?
What's that?
What podcast is this? There are two sides to people pleasing because I think that right now what we're talking about is we're doing something for someone else because they want it or because they need it or because they need it and they wrap it up as want, or they want it and they wrap it up as need, whatever. We're talking about them, but really what I think people pleasing is about us. Because if you are a people pleaser, you will be a people pleaser with pretty much anybody that you meet. It isn't because the people around you are also demanding, it's because you react similarly to different people and will kind of not identify, but like you will engage in that behavior because that is your MO.
I'm not like 100% sure about that, and the reason why I'm saying that is I'm thinking about like individualism and collectivism, right? I would, to be very simplistic, I would say that like Western society is more geared towards the individual, and I would say that Eastern thinking is more about like the collective. And for me, I find that people pleasing like has a different sense of being, or sense of like it looks differently for me.
Is that
It's
also because you have much more of a sense of duty?
yeah, I don't want to say culturally because I feel like I make everything about my culture and where I come from. I'm from South Africa,
Really?
which I said I would stop saying. Here's an interesting thing. Like I think that my experience as an African now, right, is it's because we say Eastern thinking, like we're forgetting about the South. Is we have collective thinking. We have black tax to pay, like you said, sense of duty, all of those things. And sometimes I think you need to pay it because we need to see progression of our society or our community or our family. But there's other times when it becomes the thing that you have to do. That's like the sticking point for me. And yes, it is about the individual, but I will not pay black tax. For lack of a better term, if you don't know what black tax, should I explain what black tax is?
Yeah, please do.
So, black tax is this thing where you have to pay your dues. If you're the first person working, the money that you earn is not for yourself. It's for your mother, your dad, your brothers and your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your aunties, whoever needs help. You, as an individual who has a job, has a responsibility to take care of them. And it just goes on and on and on until you guys are out of this situation. Because many people think, oh, you have a salary, you've just got 7,000 rand. Rand is the currency of South Africa. You just have to pay your rent and the rest is for you to live on. No, but I have to pay my sister's school fees, my brother's clothing. That's how it works. What we see in our society, that it's less so for people who don't, I want to say white people, but I just recently I feel like saying calling somebody white just feels offensive.
You're talking
In
about Western society because I'm not
yeah,
white, but what you're describing is definitely my culture. It's you
yeah.
take you know your salary, you've got your expenses, and then the rest of your money it goes to your dependents. But your circle of dependents is basically only the people who live in your house and who are related to you. pretty much. I mean, obviously, caveat, but I think what you're saying is Western society by and large.
But I wouldn't pay that tax, because that tax is people pleasing in some sense, because you have to please your parents, right? Look at my kid. They're doing so good. They're helping their cousin. They found their cousin a job. Yes, I did find my cousin a job. Judge me. But I would not do it for Susan on the street. I would want Susan on the street to be warm and fed, and I would do my duty in that sense. But I wouldn't go out of my way for Susan. And I think that the difference is, like, for me, I am a people pleaser, but I'm only pleasing the people that are close to me. Even if you're someone in my art community and you're looking at my art and you're like, oh, I really like when you paint scary stuff, I will tell you exactly where to jump off, because this is my art and it's about my stuff. It's not about you. Oh my God, caveats, which I'm sure you'll have too. I do sometimes though worry, oh my God, am I just straying a little bit too much? But I quickly try to pull that back and use fun as my compass. But it's not as easy as I make it sound.
No, agreed. I'm always interested in inviting the fun, and the fun just keeps on leaving. That's a Buffy quote, by the way. I'm obsessed with Buffy. Still in 2023.
Is Buffy even a vampire slayer?
I don't know. That's an existential question for another day. I don't think she's a people pleaser, though.
I've never watched a single episode of Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, but I know she exists.
Tell me, how do you people please in the art realm, in your kind of, art career? How does that influence?
At the top of my mind, nothing fully screams out to me, because I feel like these are the people I'm not into pleasing. If I have to really dig, I would say it would be when somebody comes to me in a very rude manner and asking me, hey, the link for your lesson doesn't work. Where's the link? And the PDF doesn't open on my phone. It's that thing of being very professional when I actually don't need to be that professional. It's about me very concerned and worried that this person has paid money and I need to make sure they have a good experience. But I could give you the links, give you the PDFs, hold your hand and do the lesson. If you don't like the lesson, you're not going to like it. So, like, I would say that is the part where I see if something has gone wrong, like somebody recently couldn't access something. I wanted to send them like 2 free classes. And the person in charge of the thing was like, please don't do that. These links go off all the time. But it was really about me feeling guilty, I think, that the person just paid money and I had caused them an inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
Mihao, my husband, hopefully, even when you're listening to this podcast in the year 3050, still my husband, is also of a similar character. He does not like to inconvenience people. In the art world, if I'm late for a meeting, I'm not comfortable with that. I will apologize sometimes too much, but I don't like when people don't apologize for being late, and I don't want to be that person. But on the other hand, I just feel like I'm wasting somebody's time and I want them to know that they're valued. Maybe that is just being kind, but I think there is a little bit of people pleasing that goes into there. I don't know that these are strong examples though, so I'm going to turn the spotlight on you. How do you people please in the art world? And then I'll say, oh yes, I do that too.
To me, it's like a constant dialogue, and a constant trying to understand and see and uncover what my patterns of behavior are, or my ways of reacting. And I think that for me, the people pleasing is much more of an internal thing that I do. So it isn't about pleasing someone doing what they want. It's about how my experience of what people think of me and possibly want from me, how that gets kind of taken up into my consciousness. And then all of a sudden I find myself 3 months down the line doing things where I'm like, hang on, that's not actually what I wanted to be doing. I've done it because I feel like this is what people want from me or expect from me. I've taken it on as if it's my own. And then I realize, oh, hang on, this is part of my people pleasing persona and not part of my, this is what I'm here for, this is what I want to explore, this is what I want to do. And I think it is a little bit confusing, because I think that, you've touched upon kind of social etiquette and politeness, and just, when you're in service to someone because they've paid money, there is a certain expectation and maybe also a certain standard that you want to hold yourself to, in terms of like, you want to serve people well. If they've paid for something, you want them to be able to have that thing that they expect. But at the same time, as artists, and I'm now not talking as teachers or service or content providers, but just as artists in our own studio making art, in a way we need to be completely not people pleasers. We need to only please ourselves, otherwise we won't be making our own art. And actually I think it's where there's an overlap, where it isn't super clear of like, okay, right now I'm in a sphere of pleasing only myself, or now right now I'm in a sphere of complete service to others. It's the overlap, or moving from one to the other, where I think things can get muddled and you can get confused. And it's like, you're still in the people pleasing mode, but actually the thing you're doing is painting. And unbeknownst to you, you've taken your people pleasing, I don't know, rhetoric or thoughts or feelings with you into this other work where you don't want to be people pleasing. So I think that's maybe a little bit more of the conflict, the difficulty.
I'm trying very hard to like put myself in that situation that I'm painting and it's something.
Well, maybe you don't have that.
Well, I'm just thinking maybe when I do, that's when I don't paint anything because I have the strong adverse reaction to doing it because somebody expects it.
Or because you think that somebody expects it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody expects it.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed that you like keep on saying that it's not about the others, it's about you as the individual. And I 150% agree with that. It's about how you are interpreting things, how you are perceiving things. But and also, let's not gaslight ourselves. Some people expect you, Iris, to, I would say, show up and okay, maybe this is not a good expectation. Let's say Tamara Laporte. Someone would expect Tamara Laporte to show up and paint a beautiful picture. And the minute she puts blood and gore in it,
People are going to have an opinion.
those expectations do exist.
But I think that the thing that is really important to remember is that sometimes we react as if we're staring a lion in the face and we have to fear for our lives. And I think that when it comes to these kind of things, we're painting and putting things out on the internet, we are never in mortal danger. And, that's a privilege, absolutely. Caveat, the choice to then adhere to what you think this person wants from you, this person wants from you, this person wants from you. There is no repercussion that puts, I'm talking for myself now, there is no repercussion that puts my physical safety at risk. So it is my choice to adhere to something or not.
It also depends on what you value in the moment and how comfortable you are. If I was totally dependent on my art selling and the people's opinions mattered, 50% of my audience mattered because they give me 30%. Keep track of the percentages. 30% of my income. That is a situation that is life and death. You don't have money in this world, unfortunately. You cannot live a good life. Also, because we don't remember what mortal danger is anymore, and I'll put myself there on that list. We then confuse other things with mortal danger. Your mortal danger is what it is in your lifetime.
It feels valid.
Like if you're living a really snug, cozy, amazing life, okay, me, talk about yourself, Tamara. I'm leading a good life. I'm comfortable, I'm okay, I'm safe. The moment I had to leave my house and get married at the same time and have all of the other shit that I'm dealing with at the same time, I lost all. I was in danger 24/7. That's how my body felt. That's how I was processing it. I couldn't even make choices that I made back then. I'm looking at now and I have to have so much of fucking compassion for myself and be like, why did we stay in that wretched hotel room that we paid a lot of money for when we could have just gone? Well, in that moment in time, it didn't feel like an option. So somebody else would be like, what the hell are you talking about? You stayed in a hotel room and you have a lot of money.
What I said, I don't want it to be mistaken for me sitting on my high horse and saying, well, all danger that you perceive is just in your head. It's not, and I don't suffer from that. No, it's not like that at all. I suffer from it very much. But I think that acknowledging it is really important. Separating this is reality for me. I do feel under threat or incapable of not reacting to this because that's just how things are for me. That can exist at the same time as recognizing that one is not in mortal danger. It doesn't necessarily make any of the feelings go away. It doesn't make you able to react any differently necessarily, because we are very much at the mercy of our feelings and our emotions. But it would be false to just go along with the one reality and say it's the only view that there is, because then you could never, if you can't see it, you can't, yeah.
Yeah. No, and it takes so much of like, I don't know if this is the right term, but like possession of oneself in the moment in time to realize. I mean, sometimes I feel like my realization or awareness gets shorter in these situations. But this little shit show that I've just had is just like kind of weakened that confidence a little bit. But I'm still grateful that I can realize afterwards that this is what happened and this is how we should go at it afterwards. By the way, if you need any reassurance from me, if it pleases you, I didn't think at all that you were saying that, but I think it's just so interesting to note that some of the stuff that I was going through at that time when I spoke to it about to a family member who stays in a totally different country and is going through different things. At one point, I could see that little switch go off. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you're literally in a hotel room. I just think it's so important to just not diminish your experiences because I do that very often. Oh my God, why am I complaining? Somebody, what's that? No shoes, no feet. What's that
What?
saying?
I don't know that. I don't know that saying.
I was feeling blue that I had no shoes, and then I saw a man on the street who had no feet. Something like that. And like, okay, sure, doesn't have feet, but also you don't have shoes. So calm down, Robert Frost. I don't know who wrote that. I was thinking about this like control of like what others think of you. And for me, that's not such a big thing. Like, she's a good person, meh. She's clever, meh. Because I feel that I learned at a young age that my performance, my actions, my essence, whatever, it just never changed how people were thinking about me. But it is this, and maybe I'm reiterating, like, it's how you treat me. You can think I'm a piece of shit, but that's fine. I am in some ways, but still treat me like a human being. Like begets like. I want to be treated correctly. I want society to function as, I don't want to say as it should, but at a kind level. And I want to be a part of it, and it starts with me. But the part that I do want to control is what I think about myself. Because I inherently, let's get vulnerable, I inherently believe that I'm a bad person, that I'm a sinner, that I was born in, and this is my obviously my Christian background coming out here, my religion X coming out here, that I'm just a sinner. Like, there's nothing redeemable or valuable in me unless one higher entity sees it. And I feel like a lot of the things that I do when I am people pleasing is so that I'm proving to myself that I'm not a piece of shit.
Basically, I feel exactly the same minus religion, like as in like not because I'm a sinner, but just because that's how I feel.
I've met you, you are a sinner. It's just so odd. It's so annoying. Not odd. It's annoying and it's angering and it's triggering to realize how much, like, even this collectivism that I spoke about, it doesn't mean it's superior at all. Not at all. Here's an example that I'm going to try and be short about. When I was a kid, we had a relative that would bite my cheeks. He would do it to all the little girls. And he would bite my cheek so hard he would mark it, and his fucking saliva would be on my face. If I tell you this story today, you'd be like, what the fuck? Call the police. In those days, it was like, don't make a fuss because this relative, their marriage isn't like 100% on a level. And if people start fighting, like internal family fighting, like it's going to make it worse. And then it was like, when he does that, this is what was my instruction, just say no. And I started saying no. And I learned that no, because remember, I come from a history, like I was abused as a little kid. Like I had that bad experience. Bad is a very light word for it. no, no, no. And he just never listened. So I found myself at 14 still being bitten and marked on my cheeks every time I saw this man. And my parents never said anything, and I fucking hate it. But they did that to keep the peace. And they did that to please people. And I just became a part of their. We're not individuals, we're one unit, the Greg's family. It did come to a stop eventually, but I had to react very violently. I got slapped for reacting violently, just by the way, so everybody knows. Feel sorry for me, write me a letter. But that's the part that like pisses me off when I think about like how I learned at that age that no in my family has no power. Like thinking about kids, like one of the first words they learn to say is no. I don't know where I heard this because I don't have kids, but it's just like, do you want to go home? No. Do you want to put your shoes on? No. And they learn this is how they communicate, this is how they make boundaries or whatever. But you start teaching them when no is acceptable and when it isn't. And I'm just, it's this whole thing about saying no that's like still burning my bottom about me being Christianized, me being in this collective that has made it so hard to say no. Once again, mostly to family, and if you're my close friend, which I have none. No offense, Iris. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that I'm talking a lot. I'm saying sorry because I'm feeling uncomfortable. But what I want to say is like I'm nowhere close to solving, recognizing, sitting, any of those things. I am literally at the place where I've just discovered it, where I am just like still reeling from the fact that I am a people pleaser, from what it means about the things that I don't have to accept and that I do accept, and how I behave and how I can change it. I haven't yet found a lot of empowerment in it because I think it is very empowering once you realize that it is. So, like, I don't feel like there's anything of value that I can actually give to someone except my actual experience now. Whatever you might be hearing is just that energy of just, I think, a lot of anger. Because, again, it is up to me, the individual, to change it. But it's also good to realize where I was conditioned, how I was conditioned, so that I can stop doing it. And if anybody ever had to try to bite me in the cheek now, I would kick their teeth into their mouth and they would be shitting it out till Christmas. I would do it in January and they would be shitting it out till Christmas. You can take that out of the podcast.
Definitely not. No, I think what you're talking about is, and to bring it back to people pleasing, so you're saying that people pleasing actually has a really big connection with boundaries and standing up for yourself. We also have to understand, well, we're talking personally as a person who's always find it very difficult to set boundaries, because setting boundaries feels dangerous. It feels like I'll set the boundary, but then I will be punished or be alone or whatever. And it's the cost of setting the boundary that is actually really hard. And I do understand that, for me, people pleasing is it's an escape. It's a, it's a wish for a simple, quiet life. It's a wish for like, just accept me, just know that I'm a good person, just be nice to me. I don't want any trouble. Please don't make any trouble for me. And who doesn't want that life? Because every time I have had to like kind of confront my people pleasingness, either in myself in a personal way, or when it's in interaction with someone else and I have to set a boundary, or I have to say no, or like, no, you can't say that or do that or treat me that way or demand that of me, or that kind of stuff. It's always felt much harder than just doing the thing that I think somebody else wants from me. So, people pleasing, I think, is really a wish for a quiet life and conflict free life. And who doesn't want a conflict free life, right? Especially if conflict feels life threatening and avoiding conflict is your survival mechanism.
Oh, there's like three things. The first thing I want to say is like I read like no wonder I always want to be alone because I'm a people pleaser. The other thing is like with conflict, I learned that I learned a lot of the people pleasing stuff at the feet of my father. My father was a people pleaser. Again, only to family. And yes, I'm bringing it to family because that's what I have. realizing that he did it exactly because of that, because it was life and death. He needed to please in order for his life to be safe, for his mother's life to be safe. He needed to be diplomatic. And realizing that has also given me a lot of power, because I am not my dad, and I am Tamara, and I am in a safe and healthy environment. So I don't have to make sure that there's no conflict in my house or any conflict around us. With boundaries, what I wanted to add is that you are right. It does cost a lot more, but only in that moment. I feel like people pleasing keeps on sapping the energy. Even when you remember the damn moment when you were people pleasing, you get a little extra energy zap. It is perpetual. Whereas with the boundaries, it's probably a few times. It might take some energy also to enforce the boundary, not in terms of, I think we had this discussion before, the person following your boundary, but you following your requirements for that boundary. So if you do X, I will walk away. Person does X, you fucking walk away. It's not about them not doing X. But once that energy is used, all it does is it builds a muscle, and it makes it easier and easier for you to say no. Whereas with people pleasing, like, it's just a continuous sap. So if you can have that kind of, what is it called? Fly's view, eagle view.
Fly on the wall, eagle. The fly's view. Yes, we're keeping that one.
Yeah, okay. So a fly on the, if you can just have a bigger overview of your life, a macro view. Let's talk business. I think it will be really helpful. Which is,
But you're talking about what I was saying earlier about you got to recognize it. Because if you can recognize it and then you can practice it in little ways, it's.
I am all about being practical, because I'm
Oh,
impractical.
can you give a tip? Tip? Advice?
No, it's not.
Tamara's advice column.
It's another story. Dear Tamara, I'm a people pleaser. Stop people pleasing. I had a situation where I felt a cultural pull to keep on speaking to someone that was really making me feel unsafe. I felt, as a fellow African, I needed to make sure that this person was feeling safe in the society that we're living in. But this person was increasingly making me feel unsafe. It's got nothing to do with them being African, Susan. It's because they just don't have good boundaries, and I have all of these boundaries and reactions to keep me safe from being assaulted or sexually assaulted. I've got, like, I back off, like things like that. And then in this case, it was people pleasing, because I wanted to make sure this person felt welcomed and warm and blah blah blah, that I was not following. Like, the person would step closer to me and I didn't want to step backwards. And what I did is I recorded a little snippet of myself without saying sorry, without giving an excuse, just saying, I cannot talk to you right now. Goodbye. I had to listen to their thing every time I went out with Felix. I go out sometimes 4 times a day with Felix, at least 20. So this is what, 2, 4, 6, 8. 80 minutes of listening to myself on repeat. I cannot talk to you right now. And I can't even remember the recording. That was my way, when I finally met the person, to have that little script in my mind. Because if you only meet the person once every 2 weeks, you're not going to have an opportunity to practice. So the current thing that I'm doing now for my practice is just like, no, I don't want to do that.
That's great.
No, I don't want to do that. So I listen to it not that often, but it's already helped me when I met with someone and they were like, oh, will you like come downstairs with me? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And I was like, what are you saying? It's like, I need to go to the others. I did need to go to another store. But yeah, that was such a long winded way to say, record yourself saying no, listen to it, and the script might exist in your head. Oh my God, Iris, please save me. Give me something practical to do or to use.
Coming back to it, and if I think about how do I deal with my people pleasing tendencies, which are all pervasive, like as in like I'm still uncovering when I am within my own behavior. I'm like, oh, that's people pleasing. That's about wanting a person to think well of me, or wanting a person not to think badly of me, or wanting to keep the peace or whatever. Every time I discover these things, wow, I've lost my train of thought spectacularly. Every time I encounter one of these things, the thing that I try to ask myself is, Iris, what do you want? A lifetime of not asking myself, Iris, what do you want, it sets you up for a life of people pleasing. So stop. Say, Iris, what do you want? Except don't say, Iris, what do you want if you are not Iris? Say your own name. And that, that is my piece of advice.
Yeah, and then ensue to have a 15-minute conversation in your head. What do you want? No, what do you want? That's really powerful, actually. What do you want? As I said, for me, everything feels very retrospective in terms of identifying, finding out. I only have like one positive example to say, like recently. And it wasn't because I discovered it was people pleasing, it was my script that kicked in that said, no, I don't want to. How do you identify it in the moment?
I don't think I do necessarily. I think
Okay.
it's like what you said, it's afterwards. And I think it's also about giving yourself the kindness of looking at it afterwards and recognizing it, rather than looking at it afterwards and self-annihilating and going like, "Oh my god, I did that thing again. I'm such a people pleaser. I'm so terrible." Like, instead, you could look at it with more softness, like, "Oh, I did that. I did that again. It's a thing that I do a lot. Wow, what does that mean? If I had recognized it in the moment, would I have done something differently? What would I have liked the outcome to be?"
Something I'm using to give myself softness, because I struggle with that, is I'm 35 years old, probably since the age I could perform. So let us say one, when I understood that doing X got me Y thing, and that could be food or love, whichever one it is. I've been people pleasing in some way, shape, or form because most of my life experience has been, again, with my family. Oh my God, my family are good people though. Everybody calm down. If I've been doing it for 35 years, do I really think that 3 weeks of fucking awareness is gonna just like suddenly change everything? No. I'm probably going to be doing this. It would make sense logically that it would be another 35 years to self-correct. So I'll see you when I'm 70.
Right, speak to them. Season 81 of Not a Real
And
Artist.
I don't care if you're not gonna be there. Oh my god, I hope you're there.
Me?
We're gonna
Yeah.
be We're gonna be dead by 70. We cut that out because somebody who's 70 might be listening to this and be like,
Yeah.
am I gonna die?
Shall we wrap it up?
Only if you want to. For myself, as a people pleaser or a recovering people panderer, can I use both your phrases?
Mm.
Recovering people panderer. As an RTP, I feel like I need to develop a healthy sense of or balance of collectivism and individualism because both are good and both are valid and both are also toxic in their own ways.
Mm.
But more importantly, for me, it's to develop my sense of self. That I'm not just either good or bad. Like I'm a myriad of things. I'm not inherently a sinner. I'm inherently an okay human being. On any given day, you're not going to find me in a park kicking a duck up the bum. I'm not going to be doing that. And I think once I realized those things and I don't know, I don't know if it's self-esteem or self-confidence, which one it is, but once I gain more of that, I think I will be able to let go of some of these perpetual energy sapping actions that I take.
I guess it's about believing. It's not believing in yourself necessarily, because I feel like that feeling to me erodes very quickly. Sometimes I feel great about myself, often I feel really shit. It's about feeling that there are people, important people, not rando Susan on the internet or in the street. Sorry, Susan. If there is a Susan, I'm really sorry. That there are other people who think Tamara's a good egg. That's what you said, that you would really like people to think of you. And that's what I think of you. So sometimes when I feel like shit, I send you a message and I say, I'm doing this thing and I feel like shit. And you're like, but Iris, it's amazing. And it's like, I feel like it's not, you don't just like go like, oh, it's amazing. You actually make me feel listened to, understood, and like a valued person in your mind. And I think that's so important. So, everybody should have a Tamara.
Well, everybody should have an iris. I mean,
Ah.
your visit here, one of the things that I really picked out, the two things, and Mihao and I were discussing it, and I said I really like this thing that Iris can buy because we were so late. By the way, Iris came to have lunch at my house. It was probably a dinner.
I mean, we were 2 hours late because we literally could not traverse the city because of a protest. But
Yeah, it was a clusterfuck. Let's just call it that. But at some point, Miha was like, I'm really afraid that Iris and Andrew are going to think we don't want them here. And I said, the good thing about Iris is none of the stuff that I've sent her today, she's going to take personally. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, the confidence that I have in that is the only confidence I have about anything today. And it was such a nice thing to have that. And like you even said, I said, no, whatever I'm having like is about myself. And I know it's about myself. And I was saying, I'm like so sorry for wasting your time. It was about me. And I knew that you wouldn't take it personally. And I really liked that. And the other thing was this like, I don't want to do that. You were talking about something and you were like, no, I don't want that. And I was just like, I can't even remember what it was. It was on the day of the wedding. And I was just like, okay.
it was about
So
food.
it must have been about food. Yeah.
You were like, have this dessert. And I'm like, thank you. I'm full. I do not want that.
Yeah, because Iris decides to come to a wedding and eat like one pancake. Okay, fine, it was a brunch.
It
Weird,
was like a
I know.
stack of 5 pancakes. Oh my god, I have never been so full in my life. And then you're trying to like get me to eat dessert.
I'm
I'm like,
Indian, Iris. And the next day, she came and she brought like the leftover pancake from the restaurant and she was eating it at my house.
Oh my god. You never know when Tamara says stuff, whether it's real or not.
It might be. But that's what I got from you. And I think we have another episode on friendship that's coming up or that might have come up. But that's another thing about just having like a person in your space who you can trust is not just blowing sugar up your butt to give you perspective on yourself. You said it very well. So the days that you feel like crap, get a friend. Frienda.
Yeah.
That sounds Indian.
All right.
Let's go to the key takeaways.
Yeah, let's do that.
1. The term people-pleasing refers to all humans that one may willingly do things for at the expense of oneself. 2. The act of people-pleasing is often about controlling how others may view you, act towards you, and often generates resentment in the person doing the pleasing. 3. People-pleasing can also come from an inherent sense of unworthiness. Therefore, we feel we need to add value or become worthy to combat that idea. 4. People-pleasing can also be aided by the discomfort in setting boundaries and the expected or imagined conflict that action may bring. 5. In art and in life, self-awareness and self-reflection are going to be the things that serve you in understanding. A. Are you trying to control someone's thoughts, feelings, or reactions? B. Are you feeling resentful or dissatisfied? C. Is the need or want you're anticipating true? D. Is the urgency or danger you're feeling to fulfill this perceived need real? 6. At the same time, we shouldn't gaslight ourselves and deny A. We have cultural expectations and a difference in the philosophies we grow up with. B. Our experiences are valid and that the definition of danger or urgency does depend on our situations. 7. People pandering and boundary work both use energy. A. However, people-pleasing has a perpetual use of energy. B. Whereas boundary work might have a larger investment at the start, but a maintenance energy as time goes on. 8. The choice therefore lies with the individual and which energy they feel costs them the least. Thank you for listening to Not a Real Artist. Have any comments or insights on this episode? Please send them to notarealartistpodcast@gmail.com. And please be sure to share this episode or podcast with anyone who might like it. Take care. Hello and welcome. Okay, stop it. Dum 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 dum. I cannot remember.
I don't remember.
Welcome.
I'm wrecking my brain.
Welcome.
Oh, welcome.
We can say something else.
No, this is really good.
I want to. Are you happy with it?
I'm happy with it. Yes.
No, there's actually what's on here is actual bullshit. Is there an app where you can make friends?
Grinder.